Hi to all from Bogota. I want to thank the organizers for the invitation to talk about the right of freedom of assembly and association in the Caspian Sea region. As you may know, last week I did my first presentation to the Human Rights Council with the last report of my predecessor, Clement Boule, called Preserving the Gains and pushing back against the global attacks on civic space and growing authoritarianism. The report that is public provides a very comprehensive analysis of the different trends that we have been seeing and affects deeply the exercise of the rights of freedom of assembly and of association in the world. I will present 3 of the trends so you can frame the analysis you will be doing at the event. The first one is the growing authoritarianism, spread of hostile narratives, and anti-rights agendas. The world is facing a global decline of democracy that comes along with a global rise in propaganda and hostile narratives against civil society, social movement, and protests, portraying them as spies, traitors, terrorists, extremists, enemies, threats of security, or threats to the state's traditional values. Such narratives result in stigmatizing civil society, destroying their reputation, and delegitimizing them in front of the society, creating a chilling effect that prompts many civil society activists to withdraw. Negative narratives against rights and freedoms are often part of a broader political targeted agenda to limit people's participation in public matters. Of particular concern is the targeted attacks, restrictions, and spread of hateful rhetoric towards people and groups who are at particular risks, including LGBTIQ+ people, migrants, ethnic and religious minorities, among others. Second is the armed conflicts that have significantly impacted the rights of these freedoms, not only in the conflict-affected areas where citizens are unable to exercise their freedoms, but also for those joining solidarity movements and calling for peace and justice. The global crackdown of rights and freedom have been further affected by the global threat of peace and security due to the escalation of conflicts and wars, including Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The third is the spread of laws and regulations restricting the legitimate work of civil society. They have proliferated in many countries in different regions, but despite the differences, they have common features. They are based on broader ambiguous definitions, such as representation of interest or even terrorism. They impose restrictions and disseminate harmful narratives. The legislative and regulatory framework that restricts the right of freedom of association reinforce the requirement for authoritarian or registration, impose and justified an excessive global control, and the solutions without guarantees of judicial oversight and due process, and also impose restriction on fundraising and burdensome requirements for reporting. All these provisions are included in laws and regulations concerning NGOs or are often incorporated in existing strict legislation, including in terrorism legislations and others. While some measures to regulate the NGO sector to ensure transparency and address corruption are justified, states are required to take a robust risk-based approach and impact assessment to ensure that such measures do not disproportionately affect civil society and the peaceful of assembly and association. Also, the foreign agent and foreign influence laws are getting very common. States justify their adoption of such laws for protecting national sovereignty, but they severely impact the rights of freedom of association and closed civic space, especially targeting civil society, working and protect human rights and working on government and transparency and accountability. These laws make that civil society receiving foreign funding needs to register as foreign agent or foreign representatives and then face an atmosphere of hostility with disinformation and smear campaigns. The implementation of this regulation have contributed to increased attacks, intimidations, and criminalization against human rights defenders, protesters, journalists, and those expressing or perceived to express dissent. Between January 2003 and June 2024, my predecessor and I led or joined 29 communications to states concerning legislations that are undermining and unduly restricting the rights of freedom of peaceful assembly and of association, from Angola, Sweden, Venezuela, Zimbabwe, Kyrgyzstan, Sri Lanka, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Nicaragua, Russia, China, among others. And I am doing a close follow-up on new legislative challenges in at least other 10 countries. In Russia, the draconian foreign agent legislation has led to the closure of prominent NGOs and stigmatization and criminalization of activists. Besides, in the Caspian Sea region, human rights and freedom of assembly and association are extremely restricted. In the first 6 months of the year, the special procedures have sent 9 letters to the Iranian government regarding persecution of human rights defenders. The mandate has also raised concern over allegations of surveillance, travel bans, arbitrary arrest, integrations, and bringing of charges against and detention of human rights defenders, such as in Azerbaijan. This is also worrying as Azerbaijan will be hosting the UN climate talks, the COP29, later in the year, and there are concerns of climate advocates being stifled. Countries with serious limitation of human rights and freedom of association and assembly cannot continue to be chosen as venues and hosts for conferences associated with human nation treaties. This is for me the inputs that I have prepared for today's event. I hope this is useful, and I hope that collectively we can find ways of promote and advance human rights in general and in specific freedom of assembly and association in the world, but specifically in the Caspian Sea region. Thank you again for the invitation, and I hope you have a productive discussion today.